An exciting new discovery could offer hope to children suffering from pediatric epilepsies. I'm Julie Parisi, and Marinus Pharmaceuticals recently announced it's discovered a biomarker that could identify patients who are likely to respond to a therapy called ganaxolone. Ganaxolone is currently being offered in a clinical trial for children with a confirmed PCDH19 related mutation called the Violet study. Joining me now to talk about the study and what this discovery means is Dr. Alex Aimetti, Head of Scientific Affairs for Marinus. Dr. Aimetti, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So first, let's talk about the clinical trial. I understand it's called the Violet study. Who is this study geared towards, and what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so the Violet study is a phase 3 pivotal clinical study aimed to assess the safety and efficacy of ganaxolone in PCDH19 related epilepsy. In this study, patients would be randomized to either ganaxolone or an inactive placebo group. Neither the physician nor the parent or caregiver would be aware of what that treatment arm that the patient is assigned to. At the end of the double-blind period of the study, all patients will transition into the open label portion of the study where they'll be offered ganaxolone. So it's really important to note that even though we are studying ganaxolone against placebo, all patients will be offered ganaxolone at some point within the study. In regard to timing, we're looking to begin screening patients for enrollment towards mid-year.
And what makes ganaxolone different from other anti-epileptic drugs?
So ganaxolone is an investigational anti-epileptic drug with known anticonvulsant activity. In some ways, it's similar to existing anti-epileptic drugs on the market in that it binds to similar receptors in the brain known as GABA-A receptors. However, it is different in the sense that it binds to a different portion on that receptor, and it binds to more receptors called both synaptic and extrasynaptic receptors. And all that really means is that this maximizes the inhibitory signaling within the brain, ultimately quieting the brain. It's also important to note, though, that ganaxolone has been studied in more than 1,600 patients and has a well-established and favorable safety profile.
Tell me about the biomarker discovered in the phase 2 clinical trial and what possibilities this could open up.
Yeah, so it's still in the early days, but the potential impact this biomarker could have on treatment decisions for PCDH19 patients, as well as potentially more broadly other genetic pediatric epilepsies, is enormous. For those who may not know what a biomarker is, it is something that can be measured and act as sort of a clue for us to identify patient populations that are more apt or more prone to have a response to a particular medicine. So what we observed in the phase 2 study was that those patients that had a low biomarker level, which was determined with a simple blood test, were more prone to respond favorably to ganaxolone when compared to those patients that had a high biomarker level. We aim to utilize this finding in the phase 3 Violet study to hopefully try to confirm it in a larger patient population.
And what does this mean for patients and for their families?
Yeah, so I think it means two things. Again, I think that if we're able to use this biomarker to identify an enriched patient population with potentially an enhanced treatment effect, it allows us, again, two things. One is that it potentially, if successful, would allow us to make ganaxolone available to parents and caregivers sooner than maybe previously thought. And then second, if the science holds up with this biomarker, it could potentially change the current treatment paradigm in epilepsy of trial and error and really take more of a precision medicine type approach, which would, for a child, would on their first try maximize their chance of seeing early efficacy and minimizing potential side effects of going through other drugs in a trial and error fashion.
And you've touched on this a bit, but I'm curious to hear your perspective. What does the future look like for families and for children suffering from pediatric epilepsy?
I think the future is very positive. There are a lot of companies and researchers that have invested time and resources into this field to develop new treatment options for these rare indications with significant unmet medical need. And we feel Marinus is a leader in this field. As we talked about the initiation of the Violet study, that is our second phase 3 clinical program in a rare pediatric epilepsy. And then again, we are cautiously optimistic that this biomarker finding will be confirmed, which, if true, would allow us to expand the reach of ganaxolone into other indications.
Dr. Aimetti, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We so appreciate your insight. And for more information, please visit thevioletstudy.com.